Hey, in the last video, I reviewed Stormveil, Elden Ring's first main dungeon, so it only makes sense to review the next one, Academy of Raya Lucaria. Stormveil pretty much gets universal praise from everyone that has played Elden Ring, but the opinions of Raya Lucaria have always been mixed. I've heard some people say Raya Lucaria was one of their favourite parts of the entire game, and I've heard others say it was very mediocre. Luckily, I am finally here to decide the opinion of you guys. If you disagree with me, I will kill. My review will again be based on 3 criteria. Presentation, layout plus rewards, and combat, with presentation being rated out of 10 while the others being rated out of 20, as presentation matters less to me than the other 2. That will leave us with a score out of 50. Presentation is based on the area's aesthetic, music, and the visual design of enemies and how they blend with the area. Layout is based on how fun and creative I think an area is to explore, and rewards are based on how meaningful your exploration feels. Finally, combat is based on if the enemy encounters in this area feel like they are well designed. Before starting to plan and gather footage for this video, I was really not a fan of this area, so I'm excited to see if my opinions have changed. Let's get started. I feel like the visuals is the aspect of Raya Lucaria that should have been nailed by default. It's essentially a magic castle. How can you make a magic castle not look cool? Well, first of all, viewing the Academy from a distance is legitimately breathtaking. This shot right here is one of my favorites in the entire game, and there is a reason it has become iconic in the Elden Ring community and the gaming community as a whole. I was super excited to finally be able to enter the area and see what it was all about, and I was initially very impressed with what I saw. It looks stunning and exactly how I imagined a magic castle to look in Elden Ring. But then you get to this shitty graveyard section and ask, why is this here? This doesn't feel like a magic castle anymore. This feels like someone tried to vaguely replicate a Bloodborne area. It is just so dull. The enemies here are also just boring skeletons and dogs. Where is the magic? Where is the pizzazz? Luckily, it does get better from here, with a lot of the inside walls being covered with shelves of books. This does make the area feel a little bit more whimsical, but not enough to really make me believe this is a magic area. The main area is kinda more boring. It just looks so empty. If the area wasn't covered in blue fog, there would be nothing indicating to me that this area is meant to be magical, apart from the variety of spells that cut my life short. The only part of the area that truly makes me think magic, aside from the very start, is Renala's room, which is the literal final area of the room. What? Final area of the room, which is the literal final room of the area. So 5% of the area looks amazing, while the other 95% looks pretty boring. Yippee! The enemies for the most part do at least look like they would fit in a magical setting, especially the variety of sorcerers. The music, like Stormveil, fits the area well. I just would never listen to it outside the game. So yeah, Academy of Raya Lucaria is fairly disappointing in terms of presentation. I'm not gonna lie and say I don't think this area looks good, because it very clearly does. I just don't think it fits the magic castle vibe that was trying to be achieved. For that, I will give the presentation a 5 out of 10. I was considering a 4 out of 10, but I think that is a little bit harsh considering that Raya Lucaria still looks way better than most areas in most games. I was just hoping for more magic in my magic castle. During my many playthroughs of Elden Ring, I always thought the layout of Raya Lucaria was quite simple, especially in comparison to Stormveil Castle. However, while gathering footage for this video, I realized I was wrong. Let's start outside the Academy. You can't actually enter the area until you obtain the Academy Glintstone Key, which is being guarded by a dragon. I think I was a little bit underleveled. It is located quite close to the Academy, so you probably won't spend too long searching. There is a map as well that helps pinpoint where you have to look. Once inside, you can either leave or take this lift, which properly takes you into the area. If you keep walking forward, you will eventually make it to this church. There are some secrets here, like a room behind an illusionary wall containing a rune arc, but nothing too major. Keep on going and you'll find a site of grace, which is very convenient. Following the path takes you through a graveyard section, and this is very boring. It's pretty much just a line. If I wanted to enjoy lines, I would play Mario Kart World. There are at least some branching paths here, like this one that takes you under the bridge. Never listen to a Souls player. But for the most part, it is really just a boring path through this spooky graveyard. Moving forward takes you to the water wheel elevator. What's cool is that it isn't just a visual set piece. It is built into the level design of the area, as you have to ride it up to continue the level. But you can continue to ride it past here, leading you to some enemies to fight and some basic items like a golden rune and a spirit ash. However, if you keep riding it all the way to the bottom, this leads you to a crystal area with some items and an abductor virgin. Oh damn. Damn, I got caught. Where the fuck am I? If the abductor virgins kill you with a grab, then you get teleported to Volcano Manor. This is pretty awesome, but obviously I'm not going to go over this as this isn't Raya Lucaria, but I just think it is very cool. One of the coolest parts of the level is the fact that I'm not in it. That says a lot about its quality. Back on the main path, you will eventually find another side of Grace, just before a split path. Going left takes you into a room with a conspectus scroll. There is an illusionary wall here that takes you outside the building. At the end of the path, there is this goofy helmet. I love it. Jumping down puts you back on the main path. Back at the side of Grace, going right takes you past some sorcerers and a jar. Why are you here, jar? Continuing up the stairs takes you to the Red Wolf of Radagon. Editing Matt here. While I was editing this video, I discovered that there's actually another secret room on the way to the Red Wolf of Radagon. In this room contains the Comet Sorcery and the Graven Skull Talisman, which raises the potency of sorceries. Oh my throat. This is very, very cool, and I wish I knew about it before finalizing the script for this video, but oh well. I don't think it would have affected the final rating I'm going to give for the layout and rewards, but I haven't really thought about it, so defeating him or her, I don't know, opens up the main part of the area. There is thankfully a lot more to talk about here. Making a right takes you to this side path which brings you above the Red Wolf of Radagon's arena. Here you can get 5 crystal buds and hey! Stop ruining my footage, Mount Franklin Spring Water. Opening this chest gives you the Radagon Icon Talisman, which shortens the casting time of sorceries and incantations. Following the path takes you to some sorcerers and some little jars. Back in the main area, you can go up this pile of rubble, jump down onto these stairs and jump off this balcony to get on the rooftops. The rooftops utilize the jump better than Stormvale did, as there is a lot more platforming here. However, it is kinda empty. It is very big, but I feel like your exploration doesn't lead to that much interesting content. This area is pretty cool though. You jump off the roof and enter this building where there are a few sorcerers to fight and a high page. This is actually only one of 2 in the entire game, which is very cool. The high page is guarding Azur's glintstone staff. There is also this abomination here, get it away from me. Back to the area with the sorcerers, you can actually jump down here, which puts you right back at the church near the very start of the area. That is amazing. Yes, I know you can kick down this ladder to unlock a shortcut. I just forgot. Okay. The main section also has this big area where you can find an abductor virgin. There are items here, but nothing that noteworthy. Jumping on this platform is the way to continue the progression of the level. You can get an item here. Oh my god, is that a boulder? Yeah, this is my favorite part of the level. It is so funny seeing a giant ball rolling towards you. Does that make me gay? Making it past the boulder puts you in front of... We will talk about you later. There is a teleporter to the right that takes you outside the castle, so who cares? Going to the left takes you across this bridge where you can unlock a shortcut back to the main area. Going past him and up this lift puts you in front of Renala's boss arena, which is also the end of the level. Overall, while I did like Raya Lucaria's layout way more than I did before starting to make this video, I still can't say I love it. There are quite a few branching paths here, and I especially love the boulder section, the water wheel, and the loop back all the way to the start of the level. But a large majority of this area is a boring graveyard and a fairly empty rooftop section. The rooftop section is optional, but the graveyard isn't. Players have to go through this section in order to fight Renala and complete the level. Spoilers, I don't think Renala is a cherry on top. So I will unfortunately have to give the layout and rewards of Academy of Raya Lucaria an 11 out of 20. I was really hoping to give it higher, but the graveyard and rooftop section do bring it down quite a bit. I am going to be 100% honest, I don't think the combat hits the same highs as Stormvale did. However, the lows are nowhere near as bad as the lowest of the lows in Stormvale. I will again be splitting the combat into 3 sections: enemies, elite enemies, and bosses. However, put an asterisk on the elite enemies. We will get to that when we get to that. Enemies are important as they are what you will most commonly be fighting throughout the traversal of an area. Elite enemies are important as they provide a combat challenge to break up the exploration of an area, and bosses are important as they can either create a memorable end to an area or be used as an indicator as to how much progress you have made within the area, or they could just be completely hidden, which is cool too. The most common type of enemy in Raya Lucaria are the glintstone sorcerers. These come in a few different types, such as the Karalos sorcerer, Lazuli sorcerer, Olivinus sorcerer, and twin sage sorcerer. The notable difference between the Karalos, Olivinus, and twin sage sorcerers are the spells they can cast. Karalos can only cast glintstone pebble, Olivinus can only cast glintstone star, Stars, and Twin Sage can cast Glintstone, Comet Shard, and Crystal Burst. Lazuli Sorcerers are quite different though. They can only cast Carian Greatsword, but have a way more complex melee moveset compared to the other three. That's why I like them the most. What can I say? I like my sword sloppy, bruh. The placements of these enemies are also way better than the Exile Soldiers in Stormveil. Rarely do I feel like I was spammed to death. Usually it feels like all my deaths are my fault. All in all, I think these 4 types of sorcerers are the most serviceable type of enemies you would expect in a magic castle. They are the most bang on average enemies I've ever seen. I don't have any— oh shit, did you see that dodge work? I don't have any complaints, but I also don't really have anything to praise either. There isn't really another super common enemy in Raya Lucaria. I guess the putrid corpses, but they are just the skeletons in the graveyard, so nobody gives a shit. The marionette soldiers are probably the second most common enemy type. They come in 3 different variants, those being the sword, spear, and bow variants. All of them are spammy, annoying, irritating piles of hunky dunky slop. I hate all 3 of them, but they rarely have a chance to do anything to you since they die so quickly. So they would only go in the D tier compared to the V tier the Hawk Tours are in. There is a flying enemy very similar to them named the Avionette Soldiers. These guys also have 3 variants, those being Polearm, Curved Sword, and Curved Sword with a Fire Pot. How special. They aren't as common as the Marionette Soldiers, and I also think their moveset is surprisingly more fun. They don't feel as spammy to me, so I actually quite enjoy them. I think this one took something before his shift in the academy. The only other enemy that I want to specifically talk about is the Mad Pumpkinhead. The Mad Pumpkinhead is actually sitting in the room where the boulders get dropped, which I didn't know about until I finished the layout and rewards section. This is awkward. Fine, I fold. You can have your 12 out of 20 Raya Lucaria. I don't even care anymore. I really enjoyed the Mad Pumpkinhead. He has a decently challenging moveset, and I like the area you fight him in. Definitely the highlight of enemy encounters in the area. Let me be very clear. I classify elite enemies as enemies that provide a memorable and challenging combat experience while you are exploring an area. These enemies are usually the only one of its kind within an area and usually don't respawn. It was way harder identifying what I believe is an elite enemy in Raya Lucaria compared to Stormveil. The obvious elite enemy is— I am sure nobody will argue with me about my choice here. There are 2 other enemies that I 100% believe should be classified as elite, but I'm sure some people will disagree with me here. The Alabaster Lord and the High Page. Both do respawn when you rest at a grace after killing them, but both are also the only one of their kind in Raya Lucaria. These guys are also significantly harder than normal enemies, so I think it is fair to call them elite enemies. The 4th and final one though, I am sure most people will disagree with me. I think the Abductor Virgin in the main area of Raya Lucaria is also an elite enemy. It respawns and there are multiple of them in the area, but this one is so much harder than every other enemy. It absolutely serves the same role as an elite enemy, being a memorable and challenging combat experience during the exploration of a level. This is my video anyways. I can do whatever I want and you can't stop me! I could have done no research and have made up everything in this entire video and you will never know. So I have identified the elite enemies in Raya Lucaria as the Alabaster Lord, the High Page, and the Abductor Virgin. I know a few of you are asking, if the Abductor Virgin gets to be an elite enemy, why is the Mad Pumpkinhead just a normal enemy? He is the only one of its kind in Raya Lucaria. Well, I don't think he is quite challenging enough to really fit the role of an elite enemy. Also, shut up. The worst of the 4 is the Abductor Virgin. She definitely isn't bad, but I just find her way less interesting than the other 3. She is also a little bit too tanky. I love the open area you fight her in though. In 3rd place, I would have to put— okay, I have to be serious now. Moongrim is so hard if you fight him the normal way. He will parry and one-tap you every chance he gets. It is very annoying. But notice this lift over here. Moongrim was also born with brain damage, as he will fall into this bottomless pit and die without you even trying. Not so menacing now, tough guy. This alone is so funny that I have to at least not put him as the worst out of these 4. In 2nd place, I have the High Page. In order to fight him normally, you'll have to take out quite a few enemies, which is a little bit frustrating. Also, if you happen to not notice the ladder that you can kick down, only idiots wouldn't notice that, am I right? Then the run back is extremely long and tedious. Otherwise, I love the High Page. He has a solid moveset with a cool looking area to fight him in. Nice. My favorite of the elite enemies is the Alabaster Lord. There are barely any enemies to kill. The run back isn't the worst. He looks cool and he is just fun as hell. He has a perfect amount of health. He has awesome looking gravity attacks. What's not to enjoy here? So I do think the elite enemies with an asterisk are pretty solid all all round. 2 are excellent, 1 is funny, and 1 is just okay. But finally, we have to talk about the 2 bosses of Raya Lucaria. Starting with the one that takes place halfway through the level, Red Wolf of Radagon. Red Wolf of Radagon is a mandatory boss that you will face while following the main path of Raya Lucaria. She isn't a remembrance, she doesn't have any cutscenes, she is just here hanging out until we brutally murder her. She is a glass cannon. Either you will die instantly or she will die instantly. I actually do like her moveset. She has some fun melee strikes and ranged attacks. She obviously doesn't feel very grand, but it doesn't matter because like I said, she isn't a remembrance. For what she is, I had a pretty good time. She isn't who you want me to talk about though. The boss that you really want me to talk about was once the ruler of the academy, was dumped by her husband so he can marry himself. That's just cruel. It's the one, it's the only, Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon.
Send word far and wide of the last queen of Caria, Rennala of the full moon, and the majesty of the night she conjureth.
The most interesting thing about Rennala is her sister. I am not the biggest fan of this boss. Phase 1 is very uninteresting. All you have to do is slap 3 glowing children. Rennala's shield will break and she will stop floating, allowing you to hit her a few times. Repeat until she is dead. That was so fun! Phase 2 is where the boss turns from boring as hell to slightly boring as hell. She will actually fight you. Not with a badass melee moveset though, just with some very easy spells to dodge. Pretty disappointing. Phase 2 of Phase 2 is where the fight gets crazy. She can summon dogs. I don't really like the summoning mechanic. She can summon dogs, a bloodhound knight, a troll, or a dragon. They are all just time wasters. There are very few instances where summoning enemies makes a boss fight better, and this isn't one of them. I know it sounds like I'm hating just because she is a magic-based boss, and I only like base sword wielders. But Ozma and Reese from the first Berserker Kazan are both mages, and their fights are amazing. I just don't think Rennala does anything interesting or unique enough to make me enjoy her. If there is anything to praise about Rennala's boss fight, it is the amazing presentation. Both arenas and all of her attacks in Phase 2 are visually striking, especially the moon attack. Her visuals do at least carry her from being a forgettable fight to just being a rather uninteresting one. With everything being put into consideration, I will be giving the combat of Academy of Raya Lucaria a 12 out of 20. The elite enemies are great, the regular enemies are fine, and the bosses are fine. So I think a score slightly above average is perfect for the combat of this area. Academy of Raya Lucaria had the colossal task of being the legacy dungeon that follows Stormveil, one of the most tightly designed areas I have ever played. And while I don't think Raya Lucaria is bad, it is nowhere near the level that Stormveil is. Receiving a 29 out of 50, because I changed the layout and rewards to a 12 out of 20 if you remember, I do think Raya Lucaria is fine enough, it just doesn't compare to the rest of Elden Ring's amazing areas. Shrink the rooftops by 50% or add more cool items there, change the graveyard section to literally anything else, and continue the brilliant presentation that was present at the start of the area, and Raya Lucaria could have been great. A 58% is serviceable though, slightly better than an average area. I might switch games in the next part of area by area, just because there are a bunch of locations that aren't in Elden Ring that I really want to talk about. If I do continue with the streak of Elden Ring areas, I'm not sure if I'll make a video on Nokron, Volcano Manor, or Lanedale yet. I haven't really decided. I struggled a lot more making this video than the Stormveil one, because there really wasn't that much interesting stuff to talk about, so I hope you enjoyed regardless. Anyways, I will see you in the next one.